Leave your ego at the door and get ready to be raw. This is strength to overcome, where real men find their strength in weakness.
We've got a special guest on this week for episode 23. We're excited to welcome Mitchell Miller to the show.
Well, it's funny, those that have watched the first 22 episodes know that this has been a bit of a journey for me to even be back in the fitness, realm. And so, I went back to Crunch and it's been 3.5 years. And I was in the gym just last week, back in the club for the first day. And of course, Mitchell rolls past and I'm like, whoa, man. And he's like, whoa, you're back. I'm like, dude, let's get together, catch up. And we spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes just chatting. And I was blown away at what's happened in his life over the last couple of years. And so I said, brother, don't tell me another word. I want to hear about this. I'd love to have you on my show. And he said, absolutely. And it was at that time he said, I've been doing a lot of this type of stuff anyway. And so I was super pumped to have him. I said, I don't want to know any more because I want it to be an authentic first time for me hearing about where he's taken his journey. So, Mitchell, I'm going to hand it over to you. I want you to just take it from wherever you want to go on giving the people that don't know you and those that are just listening. Can you just give us an overview of your story and we'll pick it up from there with big wide eyes and some questions as you dig on what life's been for you since the last, of 10 years.
Yeah, so let's start before the accident happened, just to give you an idea of like who I was beforehand, because I mean that's very relevant to who I am today. So prior to that, I was hit at 22. So back then I was 22. I was 185 pounds. I was a power lifter. I was a young man. I was a bartender. All I wanted to do was, like most young men do at that time, go out, have fun, party a lot. And ironically, the day that I got hit was me going out, but I wasn't partying like I would typically do. So that's who I was prior. Now, what the night leading up to that, so it was Thursday. So I got hit Friday the 13th, which is spooky. But Thursday was a place called the White Buffalo. So this is like I don't know, it's not still around now. But it's like a country line dancing bar that a group of friends and I used to go to religiously every Thursday because it was ladies' night. So why would a young man not want to go to that? So we went to like every Thursday. So it's funny because at that time I was playing like World of Warcraft with my buddy Jimmy. Love that man. And I left to stop playing World of Warcraft, went to the White Buffalo. And when I go to the White Buffalo, that's typically when I would go out and I would drink. But that time, because I had a buddy's birthday party in downtown Sarasota, I think I only had maybe like one drink, and like as opposed to what I'd normally have. Now, the I got hit by a drunk driver, and the guy that hit me was also at the White Buffalo, and he was like 10 years older than I was. The judge was like, "Did you know this man?" I was like, "Dude," I was like, "No, I didn't know this guy. This dude's like 35 or something like that." Like, yeah, absolutely no idea. And so we were both going like downtown Sarasota because we were both going like in the same direction. So the speed limit on B Ridge for you guys listening is I think it's 40. So thank God the hospital is very, very like close. Now the speed limit there is 40, and I was actually at a red light. So I was at a dead stop. And the guy that hit me was going, I think they said 80 miles an hour in a 40, dude. So this dude plowed in the back of me, and thank God I immediately blacked out, so I don't have any PTSD or anything like that. Nobody was in the car, it was just myself. And I had a four-door car that turned into a two-door, and I spun and hit a pole, and I'm left-handed, so I can't like make a fist. Like I can like move it up, but I can't like do that. I physically can't because I spun and hit a pole. I started bleeding right here, and then I think somewhere like back here. Four of my ribs were broken. I think it's on the right side because one of those feels like sharper than the other side, but I don't know which side. I've got rods in my neck that keep my neck up so my head doesn't like do this. Spinal cord injury wise, for your audience that listens that knows anything about the spinal cord injury, the higher up, the less function you have. Mine starts at C5 through 7 incomplete. Thank God it's an incomplete, which is up here. So I'm technically labeled a quadriplegic, and that's why I don't have any motor function in my left hand. And then T2 complete. So like from like your nipples like down. In the front, I can't move or feel. And then on the back of me, it's more like towards the armpit that I can't like feel. So it's weird because it's like how, like, I can't move or feel anything, but like if you press me hard enough, I can't tell if it's like dull or sharp, but I can kind of tell you, I think it's on that side, but I don't know if you're up my back in the middle or down it. It's the weirdest thing ever. Like when I was getting tattooed on my shoulder, the higher or the lower they were, like when I was getting here, it felt like it was up here. It was the weirdest
Yeah.
thing ever. So that's what happened. That was the accident. I got hit by a drunk driver doing double the speed limit, and I ended up being hospitalized for 5 whole days. So I was in surgery and I was basically dying for like 5 days. So Friday the 13th is when I went into the hospital, and then I woke up July 19th. Now, my 23rd birthday was July 18th. So I woke up a day after my birthday in ICU, high on painkillers and everything else they had me on, not knowing what happened to me. And it's funny because if my mom told me that they had to like cuff me to the bed because I tried to rip out my breathing tube to go get coffee from Starbucks. But I was like, dude, I was a man on a mission. I wanted some caffeine. I had no idea what was going on. So that's why I think I'm blessed, is because like I woke up the next day not knowing. I mean, I was so high from all the painkillers, I didn't know what was going on anyways, and then I was back and forth between, like, a place outside of the hospital, back into the hospital for, like, a total of 4 months before I went home, and I every so often when I go through my phone, I'll see, like, pictures of way back then on, like, who I was, how big of a guy I used to be. I was a big dude, and like my teeth, for example, I had braces twice. My teeth, like they split apart, and I lost all of that weight. I mean, I'm naturally like pale as it is. And I look back at like when I was younger and I was like, that was a dark place, man. And I was like, we know back then, because I had started my own business back in 2016. And here's where I think men watching are really gonna, I think, would benefit from this. So because back then I had started my own business back in 2016, 2 years prior to the injury, I had always had that like self-development mindset, because as a man anyways, no one's going to build our life for us. It's we got to go out and build it ourselves. We have to build our value. And I knew that back then. And even in the hospital, I was still reading books. I was still listening to audio programs. I was still taking courses. I was still trying to do the marketing thing that I did, because I owned an advertising agency back then. So, I mean, not like during the hospital, but I still went out and like read, like, for example, like Tony Robbins, or, like all the other, like, I've got a bookshelf for like 150 books. I could just go through a list of them. And so in the hospital, I think at one point I even tried to film videos trying to be like a motivational speaker, because I had people constantly tell me inside of the hospital it makes no sense that I'm doing like my personality is so uplifting and happy in the condition I am, that I should be a motivational speaker. And I was always like, I mean, I'm good at talking to people. I'm in a good mood all the time, but I don't want to, I haven't really like accomplished anything in life. But that's looking back now, because hindsight's always 2020. And what I do now, if I would have continued back then, my career path would have been totally different, because I'm essentially, what I do now is the same, but just a different area. So, like, if I wanted to motivate men, I'd be like, dude, listen, I was literally dying, and like I was still in the hospital trying to learn how to build a business so I can make my own money after this, because I just realized my life's gotten like 7 times more expensive. It costs me money to pee every day. You guys get to do that for free, bro. So when it comes to being paralyzed, man, you really don't understand like how much we take for granted as an able-bodied person until you lose it all. And then you got a guy like me that I live by myself. I drive a car by myself, and I'm sitting here having a wonderful life and helping other men become better men. So that's like the story from like who I was prior. I was just a young man, just trying to live life, party. I didn't really have any like goals or like aspirations, as I think most young men in college typically don't back then, because we all want to go out party and chase girls. And that's, the older I get, I'm like, that's literally backwards. It should be trying to chase your goals and not women. Not I'm not, because I love women, but I'm saying, like, you as a man, again, we have to develop our life. And nowadays I'm like, wow, man, I'm like, my life, I have less physical function than I ever had before, but I'm healthier than I ever had before. I'm happier, wealthier. My life's just so much better than what it ever has been. And I haven't let like this injury stop me from, working for myself or driving a car. My mom bought me a van and I was like, I'm never using that. I've never seen it. I've never been in it. I will never drive it. I don't ever want to touch it. I don't know what happened to it. So I have a Mercedes now. I drive a car. I've had girlfriends while being paralyzed. A lot of guys are like, oh, I'm too short. I can't get a girlfriend. Oh, bro, I'm like 3'9". I sit down all day long, dog. And I've had several girlfriends since being in a wheelchair, man. Like, come on. I'm doing stellar now, bro. I love when people ask you, like, Mitchell, how you doing? I'm like, honest to God, dude, I'm doing stellar. I literally can't complain. I'm sure I can, but I'm not going to because my life's pretty good.
This is unbelievable. And it's funny how you've just shared two lumps of information. And for those that are listening, you can't see that my co-host Ryan has had some technical difficulties, and we've continued to record. And so Ryan's sort of sitting there going, "I'm missing the story." Right? And so
Okay.
I'm over here capturing this. Ryan's going to actually have to go back and watch this and listen to it with the rest of us to catch up to what Mitchell's just given us, which is just mind blowing, changing my life just in the last 4 minutes of content. So, for the audience, can you speak to those that don't visually see you in the gym? You're in a wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
I know you just joked, so Ryan didn't catch this part, but you said, "Hey, I'm 3'9". I sit down all day," right? Uh,
Yeah.
you said it in jest. So I don't want to make light of that, but for those that don't know you from the gym or even on camera, right? We can't see that you're in a wheelchair, right? So can you tell us again? Are you in that permanently? Do you have to use that just to get around? Do you have any function in the legs? Where are we at? Is it a full paralysis from like you said, nipples down? Where are we at with that?
Yeah. Full paralysis, because it's a complete cut to my spinal cord, no movement, no feeling. Like I said, nipples down pretty much ever again. I got very lucky with my hands. I got most of my feeling, not so much, like I said, my motor function, and, like, even in like, I can't, like, bend my thumb, like, I can't bend it, and then I can't bend, like, this finger. So, like, I don't have a lot of, like, grip strength in this hand, so if something weighs, like, if I got a box on the floor from, like, Amazon, if it weighs more than, like, 4 pounds and it's not, like, a really small box, I literally can't pick it up. I gotta, like, throw it onto something, sit back up, and then pick it up like that way. Yeah, so permanent wheelchair. I've been in this 7 years now. And when I first got out of the hospital, when I look back at those pictures that I mentioned, I remember looking back at that and I was like, wow, man, I used to really care so much back then that I was in a wheelchair. And you know what I've noticed? The younger you are, the more you care about what others think. And I'm 30 now. The older I get, the less I care, bro. The less I could care less that I'm in a wheelchair. It makes me no different than you guys. It makes me no different than any other person. And I would actually argue that I'm more confident than the majority of men that I know, anyways. And I'm a guy in a wheelchair. So this is permanent. It's frustrating. Everything takes a lot more time. Like if I drop something, like if I drop like my one of my Labubus right here, if I drop those on the floor, if I pick it up and then I drop it again, I lose my mind, dude. I'm surprised my neighbors can't hear me. But it's what I mean. It's like you just kind of learn that, okay, being in a wheelchair, I can only do so much. I can only go so fast, and things are only going to progress to an extent that I'm literally able to. But it's with anything in life, you just kind of like adapt. Like my way of living life is, I don't think well, I mean, it's different than your guys's, but this is normal to me. And people ask me like, I live in a 2,400 square foot house by myself. People are like, do you have help? And I'm like, no, nobody comes help me. I do everything on my own. I take the garbage out on my own, the recycling, I clean the house on my own. I take care of a dog on my own. I take care of myself. Nobody helps me. Can I get help? Sure. Like I'm thinking about hiring like a cleaning company because I love cleaning the house on the weekends. But at the same time, deep cleaning, that ain't my cup of tea. More of a, yeah, I specialize in other areas.
So, Mitchell, I want to ask you because, you know, excuse me if you did say it, but when you woke up in the hospital and, you're trying to rip out the stuff because you want to go get a coffee, at what point or who in this storyline mentioned to you, hey, listen, you've been paralyzed or, you may be paralyzed? What did that look like?
I think my mom told me, and I don't have an answer for you because I don't really, when you're on drugs like that, I don't remember being in the hospital for the most part. Also, your brain has a way of pushing really traumatic experiences down. So I kind of, I mean, like I remember, like if I remember ICU, I have one image in my head specifically, and I don't know if it actually happened or not, but it pops in my head so often that I can't help but believe that it was. But I remember being in the bed and being wheeled out into the courtyard, and I'm just outside and there's just sunlight. That's the only thing in my head that I ever remember for being inside ICU. And I don't know if I was like how high the sedatives were at the time. But I remember that. That's the only part of ICU that I remember. I quite literally can't answer that question for you. I don't have any, like, I'm sure it's down there, but I don't know. I don't know how to bring it up. But if I think my mom told me, yeah, but you ain't walking again. You're done for, guy.
What,
I mean,
Mitchell, what did the first few months look like? I know you seem like you're in a great spot now, and that was there kind of a dark period there for you in the months after the accident?
oh, absolutely. I do remember. I don't remember where it was. Actually, it might have been ICU now that I remember it. I do remember I've got a Gen 5 Glock 19 that I have over there, and I can't use it because of my nerve damage. Because I wanted a way to protect myself. So that was I bought that prior because I also wanted to get into, I think it's called three gun competition. It's handgun, rifle, shotgun. It's something I want to get into. But I remember telling my mom explicitly how I was going to go home and shoot myself, and I was going to put the gun here, and I was going to do it this way. And she was like threatening to take my gun away, and I was like, "It's not your gun. You can't do that." And I was like, "Dude," and I make jokes to this day, like, if I make jokes like, "Dude, if this happens and God calls me home, just make sure my dog's taken care of because I could care less." And to an extent, I'm not joking when I say that. I don't think anybody should be paralyzed. It's miserable, but you gotta make the best of it. So back then, the dark parts was, and this happens to everybody, that, when a traumatic event happens, everybody goes through, like when you get broken up with, for example, you're going through a grieving process that can take upwards, I think, of like 18 months, depending on how long you're with somebody. So I was going through that grieving process of literally losing my entire life, almost dying, and never getting function in my body ever again. Like I'm like 90% paralyzed. So and they had me on antidepressants that I never asked to be on. So I immediately got off of those as fast as I could. I don't like the fact that they put me on those. I didn't tell them to. Nobody told them to. I guess it's just standard, but they didn't help me. I still wanted to kill myself. And it wasn't until I don't really know when that changed, but I know at some point in time I was like, dude, I was like, we got to make the most of this. Cause my mom started a GoFundMe, and this just shows you how known I am around here. My mom started a GoFundMe, and we raised, I think it was $18,000 in 3 days from Sarasota and Lakewood Ranch. That just shows you how well known I am around here, and that's phenomenal. So even when I was in the hospital, I think after I got out of ICU, like, because we only let like certain family members see me. Once they transferred me to a different facility, I don't really remember what that place called, but it was awful. I had like friends, and like I had friends, girlfriends, guy friends like that came and saw me pretty regularly. So I think the depressing part was like in ICU, and then once I got transferred and I started getting off those painkillers slowly over time, that's when things kind of like, all right, well, this is what's going to happen. Like I gotta, I gotta or like, nothing's going to change. And then once I went back to the hospital and then into inpatient rehab, that's where I started. That's when I told you I started reading books again. I mean, dude, before I started PT, I'd have my mom bring a tub of pre-workout in so I could take a scoop of pre-workout before I went to PT. That's just how much I enjoyed literally getting active. And her name's Julia, but you guys aren't allowed to call her that. It's Maria. She was, if she ever hears this, she just knows how much of she was my PT in the hospital. That woman knows she's always going to have a place in my heart. And it was her that I enjoyed going to PT, because OT, occupational therapy, learning how to get dressed and whatnot, I hated that. Did everything myself. I taught myself how to do all that when I got home, just because in the hospital at the time, I just couldn't do it given the circumstances that I had. But PT, I was able to go in there, take pre-workout, not that I needed it, I just wanted the caffeine, and then, like, get as physically, like, active and built as possible. I make jokes about I'm on, Terra T now, but I make jokes. I'm like, "Dude, I think everybody that gets paralyzed should be on steroids, because the faster you can get your strength back, the easier your life's gonna get." And back when I was in the hospital, I lost 40 pounds of muscle within 4 months. I don't know if that's normal or not. And I think my body ate most of it to keep me alive, but I could literally, I had to have like if this towel right here, if this towel was like, I had to have it strapped around my leg so I could pull my leg up to me because I wasn't strong enough to like literally pick my leg up myself. That's how weak I was. Now,
Mhm.
now, I mean, like you've got like, I've got like bars and stuff that I can grab on because I can't use my stomach to help me out. But I don't like if I need to pick my leg up, I can just do that no problem now. So back then, PT was where things changed. So the first couple months when I was on ICU, that was really depressing. The next part, that was probably a little depressing. And I still, there were times where Julia, like I would fail at PT or I would have like an accident where I would like literally like pee myself because I can't tell when I have to pee. And I would just start crying. And I would just tell Julia like how much I hate my life. And this is worse and this is awful. And she would like just sit there and she's like, okay, well, I got to go. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm sorry for doing this. Thanks for listening. And then there was some days where I'm like, dude, everything's going great. I'm gonna go race down the hallway and talk to some other guys and hang out with some of the nurses because I've always been good with girls. So I got to hang out with some of the nurses, and I was like, this is wonderful. I guess to answer your question a long-winded way, um, the entire 4 months I was there, everything was like depressing. A post hospital experience, when I got home, that's when that outlook kinda got, like, better because I was like, "Oh, cool, I can now." I mean, my doctor was like, "You shouldn't go to the gym for, like, the first month that you get home." I went the first day I got home. You don't tell me not to go to the gym. Are you kidding me? I used to power lift. You are not That's the only place I go, even to this day, that makes me feel like nothing happened. The only place I go. And I went to the hospital or I went to the gym the first day, crunch on 64. I was one of the original founders of that gym. But I mean, I got to play video games, I got to read books, I could walk my dogs because I had my mom's dogs at the time. I lived with my family back then. And so the hospital for 4 months, that was like the depressing episode. And then once I got out back home, that's when things kind of looked up from there. I was like, all right, because my friends came to my house, picked me up, to help me get around, hung out with them. I still worked for I still worked for myself. So still ran the advertising company or tried to build that back up to what I could at the time. And of course I lived by myself. That's what I made most of my money doing. And yeah, now so that was the hospital was what I don't really like talking about, and I don't even remember much of it if I'm being honest with you. Like, it's just you wake up every single day, you wake up every single day, it's like 3 times a night just to go to the bathroom, and then you get, like, the same, like, garbage food every single day, and you gotta take your medication, but are you gonna get that on time or you're not gonna get that on time? Because if I don't get it on time to raise my blood pressure, then when I go to PT, my blood pressure's too low, I feel like I'm gonna pass out, and then if I pass out, which never happened, thank God, but if that happens or I'm physically weak, I can't work out like I want to, or I can't exercise like I want to. So, like, every morning, for example, because I have low blood pressure, first thing in the morning, the only way that I can get rid of the body and my fluid is by peeing it out because I can't sweat. So that itself has caused like bladder problems. So I get Botox in my bladder, which is phenomenal if you guys ever pee yourself, by the way. And then so like in the morning, like just to do my hair and whatnot, or even like getting dressed, like I try to eat like as food that has like as much sodium as possible. And then I try to like drink enough water and of course caffeine and like doing my hair. I'm like, dude, I like screaming this morning. I'm like, bro, I'm so like effing tired right now. What the heck? And then I went to the farmer's market, drank another energy drink. I'm like, all right, I feel great now. So
I rem- I remember being at Crunch and seeing you come in and you were working with Brendan,
mhm,
at that time.
it's my
And I
man.
remember seeing you come in, and I think, me and all the other trainers are just watching from a distance because you weren't working with us, but we tried to get to know you and, fist pump on the way in, that sort of stuff. But, I remember you doing the basics at that time. And this was back in early 2020 when I came across from California. So this is probably what, 2 years after
Yeah,
the accident?
yeah.
And you know, I hadn't seen you since 2022. So when I saw you the other day at the gym, I'm like, dude, you look good. Your hair's changed, but there was a different look about you that I've noticed in the last 3.5 years that just drew me in to say, hey, and what's going on? Can you speak a little bit on what's changed in those 3.5 years? Because you seem, and even in your testimony that you're sharing here with us now, you seem different than even back then. What's changed in the last 3.5 years for you?
I think a lot of that comes down to just Maturity. I'm 30 now. I was 22 when I got injured. So when you saw me, I don't know. I mean, when I was working out with Brendan, I think I was 23, 24, 25, somewhere around there. I don't know. So maturity, I think for men, I think that kind of I think helps all men in general. But other than that, man, I just like I don't want to sound like a douchebag by saying this, but this is why I brought up that self-improvement thing at the beginning of this because like my life, I'm better looking, I'm fitter, I'm richer, I'm happier than ever. I'm like when you constantly do things to like improve your life and because I see people all the time like I coach men for understanding women having better relationships. So part of the things that I do is I'll go and I'll watch like other videos from other creators to learn something from them. So if they're talking about like getting your ex back, for example, you'll see guys that are like, "Oh, it's been 2 years. I don't think I'm ever gonna hear from her again. Poor me." Like, it's losers like that that never change in life because they just live in a constant state of poor me, things aren't gonna get better. But coming from a 30-year-old guy in a wheelchair that's hit rock bottom, I just told you, I'm better looking, I'm richer, I'm fitter, I'm healthier, I'm happier. I've talked to more girls this past year than I ever have in my life, and that's coming from somebody that's always been good with women. It's over the course of time, like, when I moved out of my parents, I lived in downtown Sarasota. I had a 3 Series BMW, and then I sold that and bought an M4 competition, and now I have a race car, and now I have a brand new E-Class Mercedes-Benz, and I'm looking at getting a Porsche next. I'd like, if throughout that entire time of when you've known me and then when you didn't know me, and because I said since 2016, I've always had a mindset of my life's not gonna get better unless I do something to make it better. So I am consistently, I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on educating myself to learn. If I went through life, like let's say I got out of the hospital and I didn't teach myself how to be in a, I didn't learn new wheelchair skills. I didn't watch other people in wheelchairs that I could. If I didn't learn how to do all that stuff, my progress on learning how to do something would be stalled if I, well, like, for example, to give you an example, if I fall out of my chair, if I fall out of my chair and I do not have help getting back in it, I don't know how to get back in my chair. I know the process. I know how to position my body and do it and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But because of this hand not working properly, I haven't found a way to teach myself how to push myself up high enough without damaging tendons because I've had cortisone shots in this before. So now I had to figure out, oh, well, I could just call 911 and paramedics come to my house and it's free. So that's the example of like, oh, okay, well, I got to figure out if I don't know how to do this because I think I'm limited. Well, I got to figure out other ways to do it. And the hope was like changed for me is everything. Always going to be. I read a book. I think it's called like the 1% rule, where you want to be 1% better. So after this podcast, I'm going to be filming a video sales letter for a new like application funnel for me to make more money and help other guys. And then once I'm done with that, I'm probably going to go and I'm going to go and read a book for a little bit that's going to teach me on from like an evolutionary standpoint on just how to understand women more. Because like most men, I didn't study this stuff in the past, and I've been broken up with several times in the past. And this relates to the story because if I didn't know what I knew now about women, I would still be in the same place that I was prior to with women, but I'm not now. I'm better with women. I understand women better. I can talk to them more. I can approach them like most men can't. So with my body, for example, I lost 40 pounds of muscle. Well, I mean, I'm on steroids now, TRT, but prior to me getting on TRT, I still went to the gym as often as I could. And then when I could learn, like learning how to drive myself, I had to teach myself how to get my wheelchair in the car, how to get in the car, how to get out. I saw videos from a guy that has a similar injury to me, but everybody does things differently. He has a similar injury, but he could use both of his hands. And remember, I can only use one hand. So I had to teach myself how to get my chair in my car. And then when I could learn how to drive myself, because I had to go to a class for that to learn how to do that, because that's legally you have to do it that way, which is fine. Well, I started to go to the gym every single day. And then I started going to the gym by myself. And going to the gym when you're in a wheelchair, when you're really skinny and I was like kind of like ugly at that time compared to now, I'm beautiful. Well, back then, back then, it's very, I don't know. That's why I told you going to the gym is the only place that makes me feel like I'm not paralyzed because I still went despite how I felt. I still went to work on my body. I still went to meet people. I still went to socialize with people. I've always done something to improve my life. So, for example, if you're a guy right now that's like, "Oh, I hate my job. What do I do?" Get a commission-based sales job because the better you get at sales, the more money you're gonna make in today's economy. What is it? The like middle the I don't know, like the mid-class income is like 100 grand nowadays. That's just I mean, if you make like 60 or 70, you can still be fine, but 100,000 nowadays is like 50, 60,000 from what it was like 20, 30 years ago. So that's a way of you can improve yourself because you're going to force yourself to get better at sales. And then you're going to become a different man in a year because when you get richer, you're going to learn like when you get better at sales, you're going to make more money, you're going to learn how to talk to people better, and you're going to have deeper relationships with both men and women because part of sales is learning how to ask deeper emotional questions. Well, like you guys are doing now. Tell me about your story. Oh, I got hit by a drunk driver. And what did that do to you? How did that make you feel when that happened? Oh, well, let me tell you this whole story for okay. And where are you at today? Really? Wow. What's different today than it was 8 years ago? Do you see what I mean by learning how to ask better, deeper emotional questions? So that's what's changed. Is everything about me, my knowledge base, my my business skill sets, my body. Why? Because I constantly find time in my day to read a book or to watch videos, which I think most men, because we're visual creatures, we both, if you know neurolinguistic programming, men, like we're visual creatures. So videos, like before this call, I was literally watching my mentor teach me about the sales script that I'm going to be filming in the video. That's because I want to educate myself so I can make this the best possible. Did that answer the question on like what changed? I know I kind of went off on a rant there, but for good
No, no,
reason.
no. That was beautiful because I remember watching you train, and I do remember you working on, hey, I'm not in the wheelchair. I've got to get back in the wheelchair. Brendan O'Neill over there at Crunch on 64 is one of the best trainers I've ever seen and met, and just a beautiful, compassionate man. And obviously,
Phenomenal guy.
one of the best I've ever met. And I remember you guys doing your stuff together, and I was just fascinated with your work ethic, and you know you'd be slapping hands away like, "Don't help me, don't touch it, get
Yeah.
away from me," or you drop something, or you'd be further away from your wheelchair than you wanted to be, and you had this attitude of you know bugger off, like I have to do this on my own. And I remember just watching it, loving it, and being just inspired. And I think that a lot of guys out there are going to listen to this and say, well, okay, but how did you get to a financial wealth position before, and how did you grow it afterwards when you were spiraling? And like you've just admitted, hey, I've got a gun there that I could just use to take myself out. Was there a time where you reached for it? Was there a time where you said, man, I don't have it, I don't want to get in sales, because everybody knows that's a tough gig? Was there a time that you thought about it or reached for it or loaded it? No.
Not make jokes, but I've never, because that's just being a responsible gun owner. You should not own a gun if it's it's not the gun that's going to hurt somebody. It's the person behind it. So even though I was miserable, sometimes I wanted to kill myself. I've never done that before. I love myself too much to just let that happen. And if I'm in a depressing spot, there are other outlets that you can go to make yourself feel better. So yeah, I've never went down that, and I don't ever intend to.
No, I mean, I'm definitely inspired. And I know when we chatted just the other day at the gym, you started talking about a business and YouTube. And at the time, I didn't know anything about that part of you. And so when I was sitting there with you, I was like, all right, don't start, don't tell me anymore. I want to hear about this, because I didn't approach you because you're an expert on YouTube. I didn't know you had any kind of online presence, period. And I intentionally, since that conversation and today's filming, intentionally haven't even looked up any of your content, because I want to hear it from you without me having a predisposed set of questions. So you're helping guys out there that are trying to get better at meeting women or understanding women, or guys that are married and want to get a better marriage. Can you speak a little bit on that?
So there's a couple different topics I can touch on there. I've got if you want to learn how to meet girls, I there's guys that will argue you should never cold approach girls. The red pill guys, you should never approach girls. You should get the best looking and richest possible. Then women will just come to you, and that's just not the case. And then you'll have guys like myself and other people I watch, like Coach Kyle or Corey Wayne, for example. A lot of people know who that is. That's one of the guys that I study very heavily, is Corey. And he's like, dude, you should absolutely cold approach girls, because it's what cold approaching women teaches you is humans in general, men and women, because women are emotional. Women act based on how they feel. I didn't know that back then, but now I do. Women take rejection far greater than men do, which is why women never take accountability, but that's also just feminine qualities without going into that. Learning how to cold approach girls. So, for example, at the farmer's market I went to today, I saw these two girls. I mean, I said hi to several girls, but I saw these two girls, and this was the two girls that I went out of my way to approach before I left. And all I did was I went up, hey, excuse me, girls. They didn't hear me, so I said it again. Hey, excuse me. They turned around. I said, listen, ladies, I just wanted to tell you guys real quick before I take off, man. Your outfits y'all are wearing, these dresses you have on, you both look stellar in these outfits. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I said, yep, have a good day. And I rolled away. So I help men understand women and get better at relationships because I fully believe that. And again, this is coming from a guy that has never taken the time to really like study relationships or women or like attachment styles or what causes good relationships versus bad relationships. Because the way that you have to look at things, and I see men and women completely different nowadays, is I always believe that humans, men and women, we're humans. We're the same. We're a species, men and women. Well, monkeys are a species, elephants are a species, dogs are a species, cats are a species. Male dogs behave differently than female dogs, and the same thing applies for all the other animals that I just listed. Men and women are designed by God or whoever you believe in or the universe to act and be and do completely different things. So, a lot of what I had a single mom growing up, and in one of my YouTube videos, I say this, and actually it reinforces it with a book that I'm reading. Your mom teaches you how she wants you to treat her. But how you treat your mom is not going to keep a woman attracted. Why? Because the way you treat your mom is very submissive and it's very feminine. Women don't want to be with feminine men. Feminine women don't want to be with feminine men. So, where I'm going with that is I never had my dad, like I had a dad and stepdad, but I never had like a man in my life that's like, okay, this is how you need to be acting. This is what you need to expect from girls. If you're going through a breakup, do this, don't do that, blah, 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 blah. I never had a guy do that. So I grew up, I'm naturally good with women because I was raised by a woman. I know how women act. I know how women talk. That's why I told you guys at the beginning of this, bro. I'm going to do what I'm good at, and that's talking. I love talking. So to girls, I think women say on average 8,000 words a day. Men on average, I think it's closer to 2. I'm up there on 8, dog. When it comes to that, I never took the time to understand how women are. And then you got the guys in like it's called the MGTOW community, men going their own way. These are men that have been screwed over in the past by girls, and now they believe that women are worthless. They shouldn't, ever want to be with the girl. They cause nothing but problems. You're going to believe that if you've never done anything to make your experience with women better. And how do you do that? By actually learning how women behave, what they want, what they like, what they don't like, what they respond to, what they don't respond to. That's why you hear women say, they'll say the popular thing, I want a nice guy, but yet they go for the bad guy. Why? Because the bad guy exhibits 3 characteristics that nice guys don't have. Nice guys are a form of manipulation. I'm going to do something for her and expect something in return, which is usually like sex. That's manipulation. Whereas the bad guy acts like he doesn't care about her. But he does, but he acts like he doesn't. Why? Because men are designed to go out, slay the dragons. They're the providers, they're the safety nets, their security. Confident, they're confident, charming, and they take responsibility. That's why men can admit they were wrong, but women can't, because that's feminine behavior. Women are taught women don't want to hurt their own feelings, and women don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings. So if they admit they're wrong, they're going to hurt their own feelings. That's why they don't do that. But I didn't know that back then. Because I used to yell at one of my girlfriends. I was like, dude, why is it that you never admit you're wrong? Or like you never apologize, blah, blah, blah. Now I know why. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, well, that makes total sense. So that's what I mean, though. So my videos, I am trying to, I fully believe that, again, this is coming from a man that I've had good relationships, bad relationships, and I'm 30. I've had my heart stomped on several times now. I'm going through heartbreaks, one of the worst experience ever. But men learn through pain, unfortunately. And I think every man should go through heartbreak. But that was the turning point for me. And my last girlfriend was the best relationship I've ever been in. Phenomenal woman. I will always want the best for her. It just didn't work out. If I knew what I knew now back then, maybe things would be different. I don't know. But I do know that now everything happens for a reason. Whatever happened couldn't have happened any other way. So me doing what I do now couldn't have happened any other way. I fully believe that if men can understand the opposite sex and how they behave, what they want, like I said, et cetera, that there would be less like men going their own way. Well, then once you learn how like women behave and what they want, well, now you're going to be able to keep that relationship long term, and you're going to make her feel like you care about her long. So one of the to give you an example of that, women, one of the main two reasons women will break up with a man is because she feels like he doesn't care about her, and she feels like he doesn't hear her and understand her. So if a guy moves in with his wife and he stops taking her on dates once a week like he used to us, we think we're done. To men, us men, we know we love this girl. We would die for that girl. But women do not behave that way. He used to take me on dates once a week, and now he's not doing it anymore. What's going on? I don't think he loves me anymore. Honey, yes, I do. I absolutely love you. Well, why don't you do anything with me anymore? Do you see what I mean? If men understood that, you can't stop dating your girl, bro. You want to be with the girl long term, keep dating her. Because if you don't, she's going to feel like you don't care about her. We know you do, but you have to show it to her. That's what I mean by that. That's what I've set out to do. And I'm very passionate about that because I've been screwed over in the past plenty of times for my own behavior and other girls. And I don't want other men to experience that. So if I can help educate them, then I mean, you guys can see it's just, you'll have better relationships with them.
Well, you've touched on a few things. I know Ryan's sitting there just nodding his head. We've had a couple of episodes in the past where we've actually talked about attachment styles, and Ryan was raised in a broken home and raised by his mum, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. You've said a few things that I'm immediately going to get off this episode and start scripting where I'm going to take, my journey
Yeah.
with my wife, and it's just, I love how blunt you are with it without putting the blame on either sex, because you've said it so many times. Listen, I've screwed up. I've made a lot of mistakes, and had I not, maybe I'd be in a different position. And I'm sort of sitting here thinking of my life going, oh, wow, yeah, I mean, but you can't get stuck there, right? What you can do is you can take you know, the content that you needed to learn from that experience, and then you can try and get better. And that's what I'm seeing in you that's inspiring. And I think you're probably going to be able to inspire a lot of men out there that are going through it. But not only that, you're talking to the people that have been married for quite a while and have become complacent. And I think, Ryan, didn't you just do a date night the other night?
Yeah. Yeah. We just had a little date night and left the little one with my mom. So that's important. We got a few of those coming up.
And you've got
as
them
we speak.
scheduled, right? I mean, you've got them put on the book so that it's something that you guys are going to make sure happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Keep the-
I'll go live and admit that I've been a little sloppy with that because of, life and, my surgery, and, you can get caught in that woe is me mentality. And already, it's like, wow, get off your ass and, date your wife or your girlfriend or whatever it is that you're in, and push forward. And so I'm already moved by this, but, being an Aussie, we love that blunt in your face, like, this is it, right? But
Yeah.
take responsibility, right? There's women out there, like you said, that are manipulative and are going to take advantage of you. And there's guys out there looking for the same thing. But that's not what we're talking about, right? You're talking about really developing something long term. And is that something that you work with specifically to try and make long lasting relationships better?
I mean, it's one area. So a lot of it, you can look at what I teach is a lot of that comes down to mindset. So, for example, men who think that you got to be the best looking, you got to be 6 foot, you got to be the richest. What's that thing that modern women on TikTok say? I want a guy that's 6 foot with a six pack and makes six figures. Well, if you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, we never had currency, money. That hasn't been around for that's not always been a thing. Back in our caveman days, we never had money, and men were still having families with women. So from an evolutionary perspective, this is why I say I'm like 3'9" in a wheelchair, and yet I have absolutely no problem talking to girls, going on dates, being in relationships, and hooking up with them, because it's how you act as a man that's more important to a woman. And the reason why is because once a man impregnates a woman, the woman no longer needs a man's body. She wants the safety and the protection and the guy to be there with her to go through that. So you can look at what I teach in, let's just say, like, I guess a couple, 4 different areas. Mindset, there's pickup, which is like meeting new women. There's dating, which is the whole process of dating the girl up until she wants to be in a relationship. Do not ever ask your girl to be in a relationship. She needs to be the one to do it. And then there's relationships. So if men who understand women don't argue with women, because women are emotional, and even if you think you won, you lost, because she's going to start associating feeling bad with you. And if a woman doesn't feel good, if she doesn't associate feeling good with you, she's going to go find somebody else that she can feel good with. So when you argue with the girl, hey, babe, obviously you're upset right now. Tell me what's going on. Oh, nothing. Clearly something is. You got to like get it out. Clearly something is. I can see it. Please talk to me. What did I do something or something else going on? What's going on? Help me understand. You just got to get it out of her. So those are the 4 like core pillars that I teach.
I believe in what you're saying, and it's great to hear it from someone that, can literally say, hey, I'm in a wheelchair and I've got the confidence to go up and talk to girls. And it's funny, I was having this conversation with someone just recently that was having a bit of a downtime in their life where they felt that they couldn't talk to girls or find someone that was interested. And, I actually hear that quite a lot. And it's funny because, this very topic comes up this week, where I think there's a lot of people out there, both sides. I don't think it's just guys. I think it's men and women, right? And you've kind of parted some of the waters on, well, what does it look like, right? What are women expecting? What are men expecting? And this is why I think sometimes you can look and you see this, drop dead gorgeous, female that's with this guy that you look at and go, how the hell
Yeah.
did that dude get that chick? And and all the guys jealously look and go, oh, he must have money, right? And you're kind of dispelling some of that and saying, well, that might not necessarily be the case, right?
Yeah. Women, men and women, I think within the first 3 seconds, because Mother Nature handles attraction. So if you look at the girl, your girlfriend, your wife, if you look at other couples, they tend to look very similar. I know I'm thinking of one guy right now and his girlfriend. I'm like, dude, they look very much alike. That's because humans were attracted to similarities, like an attraction level. But when you find a girl like sexually attractive, that's because from a genetic point of view, she has everything that your like bloodline has ever wanted to be like a quality mate. So if you didn't know that, now you do. When you find a girl hot, she's got something that you would want to reproduce with. Otherwise, if you find another girl and you're like, she's not hot, well, that's because nothing about her you would want to reproduce with. So now women are the same way. We're similar in that way. We know what we want within the first 3 seconds. So that's why I tell guys, like for example, like at this point in time, I don't go out on my way to cold approach girls. I'll go up and I'll say something and then I'll roll away. But the conversations with the girls that I ask out, those are the conversations that quote unquote just kind of happen. And let me ask you this for your guys watching. How often is it that you meet a new best friend? Not often at all. The same thing applies when it comes to meeting a really good girl. I can go out of my way and I can talk to like 100 different women. I could just compliment them, ask for their name, and then go away. But I tend to find that out of those 100 girls, I might have like 20 of them where the conversation just kind of happens. That's because there is a level of mutual interest that just kind of like the universe wanted that to happen. Those conversations are where I will typically ask the girl out because we can sit there and have a conversation for like 20, 30 minutes. A girl will not talk to you in any way, shape, or form if she does not like you. I mean, women know that. Women know men won't approach them if they don't find them attractive. Same thing applies for women. If she don't like you, bro, she ain't gonna talk to you. So it's not. No, I mean, if you look at like Bill Belichick with his like supermodel of a girlfriend, he's a billionaire. Well, he's 70 something. She's like 24, I think. Well, yeah, I'm sure money has a lot to do with that. But in Bill's case, bro, good for him, man. You know what? Good for him, bro. A lot of us can't do that. Good for him. But you don't need to be rich to get a girl like that, man. There's women don't value looks as much as men do because I explained it earlier as to why. So all you got to do is just go up and talk to a girl. Hey, I thought you were cute. What's your name? Oh, I'm Lisa. Hey, good to meet you. Oh, good to meet you too. What's your name? And she asked for your name in return. Big green flag because she had to ask for that. What's up? What are you doing? What are you working out today? You just talk to her. But again, like stuff like they just kind of like happen. So that's why guys are like, well, what do I say to a girl? Well, you just go up and compliment her. Dude, give you the clip notes. We should never compliment a girl because she's heard it all before. Yeah, stupid. Well, she hasn't heard it from you yet, and that's what matters. When people think that the most beautiful women get called beautiful all the time, and you know what? They probably do, but they haven't heard it from you yet. Go up and tell her. People would say like, "Oh, dude, that's very direct. That's scary." I don't care. She's either gonna like it or she's not. And from my understanding, because women love praise. Remember, they act based on how they feel. So if you praise a girl, if I say what I usually say, I'm gonna drop the F bomb. I don't want to do that on here, but I'll go up to a girl. Dude, I want to let you know, man, this outfit looks absolutely effing stunning on you. Oh my God, you look phenomenal. Women light up when you do that. I'm not saying she's going to like you more because of that, but I am getting her to associate feeling good with me. So she's going to remember me even if she doesn't like me. And then guess what? If she does like me and we just happen to get into a conversation, and if it lasts anywhere from 10, 15 minutes, hey, man, you're really cool. I'm going to get back to my working out, but I want to take you out sometime. What's your phone number? And then she's either going to give it to you or she's not. And then if she gives it to you, she's either going to ignore you or she's not.
There's a lot of guys out there that I think are going through so many rough times that won't even come close to stacking up to what you've been through. And I think this has been a good message to a lot of people out there that, I think they're lonely. I think there's a lot of guys out there that are lonely, and I think there's a lot of women out there that are waiting for their knight in shining armor. And it sounds like you've got a little bit of perspective from both sides that could maybe help connect people out there, which is a blessing to many. Can you tell us what the name of the channel is for those that might need a little help
Yeah, so
getting confident through their trials? Can
you go
you,
to YouTube, it's Coach Mitchell Miller, and then that's it. Small
and they can,
channel. I think I've got like 1,070, 80 subscribers right now, but I hit 100,000 views last month. So people like my stuff. A lot of women like what I teach. Majority of them do. And you get like that 1% of girls that absolutely hate it, but yet they watch my stuff consistently, which tells me that they like it. Um, so that's what it is. Coach Mitchell Miller. And then, like I said, I teach everything from, depending on whatever I feel like filming that day, pick up dating, relationships, mindset, masculinity, feminine behavior, understanding why girls do what they do, how to talk to her, how to ask her deeper questions, how to approach her, where to approach her, when to approach her, why should you approach her, how many dates should you go on in one night, what counts as a date, should you kiss her at the end of the night, should you not, when should you text her again, all blah blah. I do all that. I cover all that. I teach men what I wish I would have known in my younger 20s. Because like I said, like if you look at my life now with businessman, if I knew what I knew now when it came to women, my dating life, sex life, relationship life would be tremendously better. Just like it is with my physical and financial self.
yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because, you're talking to two married guys here with kids. And of course, everything relates to us, right? It's not to just the guys that are out there looking to find the future wife and, mother of their children, but it's, how to treat them and how to understand them. And, I know Ryan and I'll chat between the episodes of next week and we'll be like, man, this is kind of, good stuff. For those that don't know, I remember when I first met Ryan, I dubbed him Romeo, and it's taken me quite a lot of episodes to, really practice this. But he's still in my phone as Romeo, and he was a good-looking guy, and he was, able to speak to him. He had confidence about him, and it was just his thing, right? And so now he's married with kids. I think
Good
he
for you,
could
bro.
still learn from you. But I mean, we're watching you, and I'm getting the vibe that you're not out there trying to promote a reckless lifestyle because you've already said, hey, listen, that was what I was doing when I was in my early 20s. And now you're actually promoting relationships and getting to understand women. And if you're not working on it, then you're going to attract the wrong future, wife, or for those girls that are listening, you're going to attract the wrong future husband. Am I right there?
Yeah, that's for the most part. But I have some videos where I even open with talking to the younger men about there. And I even say, I used to be that guy that partied, went after girls and ignored his career. And I tell younger men, women should be the absolute lowest priority on your list of like things to focus on. Your life, your friends, your hobbies, your passion, your purpose, your career should come first. And that's because again, women are designed to nurture relationships and chase men. So if you're focusing on a girl, guess what? You're being a girl. Now, granted, what you focus on expands. So if you go out talking to girls, you're going to meet more girls. Absolutely. I mean, don't ignore girls. You should understand them. And if you see a cute girl next to you, go up and say something to her. But don't go out of your way to, cold approach girls, or you've got other things you should be focusing on as a man. That's what attracts women. So that's where the red pill guys say be the richest, best looking guy and make the most money. That's where it does have some like common sense because yes, that will attract women because you're being a man that women naturally and inherently respond to, but you still don't ignore them. You're still going to understand them. So, I used to have that reckless lifestyle, and now I teach men in I have to word everything in a way that says woman or it doesn't get clicks. So that's why I can teach men about building a better life and getting as rich as possible, but I have to somehow relate that to women or it just will not get views. And that's part of the YouTube game. That's the fun part. How can I make this topic about women?
Stuff, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show and kind of sharing your story and kind of like you said, folks can find you. You said Coach Mitchell Miller on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Coach Mitch Miller.
Yeah, I love it. And, it's blunt, it's in your face. My Aussie audience will love it because it feels Australian. And for those that are ruffle some feathers, you got to look deep down and maybe say, well, why did that ruffle me a little bit? Is some of that for me, right? Have I done that? Have I made those mistakes, or am I trying to live like that? And
I'm gonna tell
I
you,
think,
men, right now, man. I'll tell you, men watching this, buddy. You ain't gonna get rich and famous if you don't have a set of people that hate you. That's just reality, dog.
yeah, that's very true. I think a lot of people like to do better than their friends, and they watch someone succeed, and it can get sour. So congratulations on turning your life into what it's become after that night you got hit at 80 miles per hour and waking up in a hospital. There's a whole lot more to unpack on you. There's no doubt, but for those that are listening, they can find him. But we want to thank you for getting on and sharing your testimony and making sure that there's people out there understand the value of learning something new each and every day, which is you're either growing or you're dying, right? So thank you for being on, and we're going to try and promote this episode and get it out to as many people as we can that are struggling to be in relationships or find a new one, right? So thanks for being on, man, and I'll probably catch you in the gym tomorrow or the next day.
Yep. Guys, gentlemen, it's good talking to you all. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And Matt, I'll see you around, bud.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Mitchell.